the big basilica in San Juan, and we are going to do the Stations of the Cross together. It's kind of complicated because we have the baby and the stroller, and I have a separate camera and the Bible, and then my phone where I have the notes and stuff like that. So we're just going to try to make the best with what we have and try to make it happen. So I'm going to hand the camera over to Darian, and she's going to be the videographer. So maybe you can just get them. So that's the first. I should get in the camera. So that's the first Station of the Cross, and that is Jesus being condemned to death, being sentenced to death. And here's a little bit of information. The Stations of the Cross, there's the traditional version, and then there's the scriptural version. The one that we're going to see is the traditional version, but I'll give you the scriptural version while we're talking about it. So Jesus is sentenced to death, and we have Matthew chapter. We have Matthew chapter 26, 36 to 40. Then Jesus, this is actually going to take you all the way through the Testament. Yeah, I think it'll take you long. Let's just do a running commentary.
Okay.
All right, change your plans, guys. I'm going to put the Bible away. I know. How blasphemous. So yeah. So that's the first Station of the Cross. Jesus is condemned to death. You can see the crown of thorns on his head. Pilate washing his hands of any guilt and shame, allegedly.
Daddy.
No, it's okay. This is good. And then we have a beautiful little walk at the Basilica. We have some grass and some trees, and it's really nice and fresh. Diego, are you happy? Yeah, you're learning about Jesus on the cross? Can you say Jesus? Yeah. I hope I don't give anyone like dizziness from all of the walking. And then this is the second station. Jesus takes the cross. How much do you think a cross weighed? I don't either. I'm gonna guess 180 pounds. That's probably too light. I'm gonna guess 225 pounds. My bench max. That's a lot. Diego, not even your muscles could carry that. Can you show off your muscles? Wow, look at the beautiful blue sky, babe. There's no clouds or anything. And also for anybody watching, we live in South Texas and it's typically 5 billion degrees outside. But today it's a cool, I don't know, 60? It's like a cool 60, 65. It's pretty fresh. It's very, very nice. So very enjoyable weather.
We're just weak.
Oh, it's 69. We're just weak. That's how accustomed we are to 5 billion degree weather. So also after this, we're gonna go inside and record the inside of the building because it's kind of interesting. So I'll drop a video about that later. The third station, Jesus falls for the first time. And there's Jesus with a potentially 225-pound cross that he's carrying with his crown of thorns. And again, appreciating the outdoors today. Beautiful weather, no clouds in the sky, freshness, activity, physical fitness. My wife and baby. Oh yeah, there's a party. There's a party that's ahead of us. And they actually have like a guided devotional. So hopefully we don't interrupt them too much. because that would feel really bad. I guess we'll find out. So this is the fourth station. Jesus meets his mother. And I'll try to be quiet for the people that are next to us. Are you okay? Darian's a mom now.
It's true.
She's got a little baby, and then another little baby coming. So imagine being Mary and seeing your son. Very sad, very hard.
I was literally like tearing up.
Yeah.
I'm not even familiar with the
Yeah. It's pretty sad. Oh, sure. That was the fourth station. Jesus meets his mother. So that's the traditional reading of it. The scriptural reading of it is that Jesus is denied by Peter. So you can find that in Matthew chapter 26, verses 69 to 75. This is a good idea. This is much easier. So yeah, a little bit of history on the Stations of the Cross. It wasn't St. Francis, I don't think. Actually, no, I think it was St. Francis. It was during the Crusades, and St. Francis had to get permission from the Pope from Rome to go to Jerusalem and make the Stations of the Cross because they were at war with Muslims. And so he did that. They gave him permission, and he made the first Stations of the Cross, going from Jerusalem all the way to Calvary, where he was crucified. Yeah, and it's still the Franciscan monk's duty to keep up with the Stations of the Cross and make sure it's functioning and all of that. But that's a little bit of history of the Stations of the Cross for anyone who cares. This is the fifth station. Simon of Cyrene helps carry the cross. So one of the guys that did not abandon Jesus. People here at the Basilica will come and drop off little roses and stuff like that. But that's Jesus being helped by Simon of Cyrene. And if you're looking for the scriptural tradition, that would be Mark 15, 1 to 5, and then verse 15. Mark 15, 1 to 5, and then skipping to verse 15. So yeah, so this is actually my first time doing a Stations of the Cross ever. I don't know about Darian.
You mean like with the scripture and everything?
Well, yeah, sorry. I've walked this path many, many times in my life. This is like a local shrine here in San Juan, Texas. So I've walked it many times, but I've never actually done it on Good Friday. And I've never actually done it as like anything spiritual. It's been more just like people are in town and we want to show them the places around where we live. So this is my first time really doing it. Maybe I should become a Franciscan monk. I guess I would have to leave you to do that.
I don't know what that would involve.
Yeah.
With our family, but
Oh, also guys, I hit 1,000 subscribers, so thank you for everybody that subscribed, even though there's only one person watching this. Whoever that is, thank you for watching. Oh, it's Jason Lee. How about that? Hi, Jason. We're doing the Stations of the Cross, but you probably know that if you've been watching for more than 3 seconds. But this is the sixth station. Veronica wipes Jesus' face. No apostrophe on Jesus. So that's Veronica. Yeah, and actually, Veronica is not in the Bible. You won't find her if you look through the Gospels. Veronica does not come out. It's more of tradition that has her in it. And the reason Jesus' face is on there is because tradition says that whenever she wiped Jesus' face, it got covered on her shroud. So they still have this, and they have it like at a very fancy church somewhere, and they venerate it, and they're very excited to see Jesus' face on there. So that's what tradition says, at least. And for the scriptural tradition, Jesus is scourged at the pillar and crowned with thorns. So that's John 19, 1-3. And for anyone watching who maybe doesn't know what a scourging is, it's basically like you're getting whipped, except the whip is a flog. And at the end of the whip, there is bone and shattered glass, shards of metal. And the purpose is they run it into your back repeatedly until the flesh comes off your back. So you basically have an unrecognizable back because of all of the flogging. And it wouldn't have just been one end at the flog. It would have been 15, 20, 25 ends. So you have 15 to 25 shards of glass, metal, and bone sticking into your back and then being ripped out of your body. People say that Jesus was whipped 39 times. We don't actually know because the scriptures don't tell us. But traditionally, that would have been the highest allowed, 39. Because once you get 40, they would say that you would die. So E wants to know what the red thing is on Jesus' forehead. Oh no, I'm sorry, I missed it. I don't actually know what you're talking about now. I have no idea. I missed it, I'm sorry. Sometimes people put flowers on Jesus. So I'm assuming that's what it was because the stations before they had red flowers. But people will come and they'll put flowers on Jesus, on his crown of thorns, on his hands, on his head, just everywhere, just as a sign of respect and a sign of love and devotion. So I think that's what it was, Eliza, but I didn't actually see. But I'm sure we'll see more flowers. So you can tell me if that's what you saw. But that's what it was, probably. So we'll see. The seventh station, Jesus falls for the second time. Jesus cae por segunda vez. Jesus falls for the second time. So here we have Jesus falling for the second time. And now just imagine, you can't see it on the statue, but his back would have been bleeding. You would have been able to see his rib cage probably. His muscles would have been exposed, unrecognizable for who he was on his back. And then he had to carry this cross that we have absolutely no idea how much it weighed, but we're guessing somewhere around 225 pounds because that's my max bench. Terrible metric, but maybe what it is. So imagine that, carrying that huge cross when your back is bleeding and broken and sore. This is kind of gruesome, Diego. I hope you're not traumatized. Yeah. Look at all those beautiful trees. So for anyone that just tuned in, we're doing a walk around the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, which, it's called Good Friday interestingly because it's the worst day in human history apart from maybe the entrance of sin, but maybe this is worse because it's the day that we remember that Jesus died, was crucified, was beaten on our behalf, right? It should have been us. So it's a very dark day. On Good Friday, the church does not celebrate per se. They more remember and mourn the death of Jesus. So it's bad Friday in a lot of ways, but we call it Good Friday because it was good for the people who put their trust in Jesus. It was good for the salvation of the world. And that's why it's called Good Friday, even though truly it was the worst Friday of all time. E asked, do you think Jesus can carry the cross? I do. Yeah, Jesus does carry the cross. He falls a couple of times though and drops it, and then people come and help him carry it, which is kind of beautiful, right, Eliza, that we're never alone and we have family and friends to help us with the difficult things that we have to carry. But yeah, Jesus does carry the cross, the very, very heavy cross. So we're at station number 8. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. And in the scriptural tradition, that is, Jesus is helped by Simon the Cyrenian to carry the cross. That's Mark 15, verse 21. So Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. And Eliza, right there, you can actually see the flower. So people bring little flowers and they place them around. This one just so happens to be orange. I think the other one was red. But here are the women of Jerusalem, beautiful statues. Look at that emotion. Diego, are they sad? They're sad, right?
He thought she was on the phone.
Oh, Diego thought that she was on the phone. No, she's sad. That's funny. So that was the 8th station. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. So back to the Good Friday stuff. So Good Friday, called good because it was good on our behalf, but it was terrible for Jesus, which is why we have Jesus saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? We have Jesus talking about the cup of the Father's wrath and if it could be taken away from him and all of that kind of stuff. And I have a little video, it's a short, but it talks about the 7 last sayings of Jesus. So that's kind of interesting because the last things that people say are usually what they're remembered by. And of course, we try to remember everything Jesus said, but there was something particularly powerful about his 7 last sayings. So if you want to see that video, it's somewhere on my channel. You just have to look around a little bit. And that gets us to the 9th station. Jesus falls down for the 3rd time. And so we have Jesus falling again, Eliza, because the cross is very, very heavy. And Jesus was fully human. So his muscles got sore, his muscles got tired. Even though he was God, he made himself to be like us for our sake. And so Jesus does get tired and drops the cross. And then the Romans would come and they would get mad at him. And they would say, pick it up again, Jesus. Even though you're tired, pick it up again. And so there we have Jesus. And again, his back would have been bloody. You would have been able to see the ribs on his back. You would have been able to see his muscles torn apart. But we have Jesus there, dropping the cross again. Now this is a good time to remember that Jesus is doing this all on the behalf of the disciples and the people who turned their backs on him, who rejected him, who betrayed him to the Roman officials, who rejected his divinity, who rejected his position as the rightful heir to the throne of David, the true king of Israel. And that's who he did it for. Right? A righteous man will give his life for his friend or whatever, but what kind of person gives his life for people who hate him? And that's Jesus. Jesus does. Jesus loves with a counter-conditional love against conditions. And he does that for us while we were yet sinners, the Bible says. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And so he's enduring all of this, and we rejected him. We spat on his face. And then we have the 10th station. Jesus is stripped of his clothes. So here we have Jesus stripped of his clothes, embarrassed before the people, despite being a king, brought low and made humble. Eliza, you can see a little flower there. It's a pink one this time. So there you have Jesus being embarrassed before the people, crucified, naked, so that all could laugh at him, but also to fulfill prophecy, because they would play games over his garments. So today is Good Friday, tomorrow is Holy Saturday, and on Holy Saturday, the church practices silence. After Good Friday, there is this confusion. You put yourself as if you were one of the disciples. Because if you were one of Jesus' disciples, you've been with him for 3.5 years. You thought he was going to be the king. You thought that he was going to come and bring the kingdom and cast Rome out and establish Jerusalem and Israel for what it once was, and that they would have an eternal kingdom that would never end. And then you see your king, you see the person that you had put your trust in to be this person, you see him dead. You see him dying and you see him dead. And all of those hopes and dreams come crashing down, and you're left with the confusion, you're left with the frustration that you've just wasted 3.5 years of your life on somebody who ended up not being who they said they were. And on Saturday, we remember that, and we put ourselves in the disciples' place, and we sit in silence. We sit in the confusion of Holy Saturday after the death. We sit in just pain, and we mourn the death of Jesus. And that gets us to number 11. Jesus is nailed to the cross. For the scriptural tradition, Jesus promises his kingdom to the repentant thief. Luke 23:39-43. But this is Jesus being nailed to the cross. We have some flowers there as well. Let me go around through the back. This is one of the things I like to highlight. This is what the nails would have looked like. Sometimes when I think nails, I think of what like you get at Home Depot, these thin and skinny little nails, but these would have been monstrous nails. I mean, they're big. Imagine that going through your wrists. They're huge. And also, well, I won't say that. But anyways, there's Jesus being nailed to the cross. And being nailed to the cross was the most terrible form of torture that you could ever be given. You would die by slow asphyxiation. You would prop yourself up on your legs so that you could breathe, but then your legs would get tired. It's like holding a squat. So your legs would give out, and then you would fall on the cross, only being supported by your hands and the nails. But you couldn't breathe in that position. So then you would, before you die, you would kick yourself up again. You'd kick yourself up again on your legs on the cross so that you could breathe. But then you'd get tired and you would drop and you wouldn't be able to breathe. And you would just do that repeatedly until the weight of your body can no longer be supported by your legs. And then you would fall and you would asphyxiate and die. So yeah, the terrible, terrible suffering of anyone who was crucified. And yet for Jesus, it was more than just the physical pain and torture of being crucified. It was the judgment and the wrath and the penalty of sin. So it was both of those things. It was the forsaking of God that he had never experienced. All he had ever known was complete unity with the Father. And then on the cross, while still remaining a part of the Trinity, mysteriously, the Father forsakes him. He is forsaken by the Father. And of course, he's still a member of the Trinity. He is eternally God, even in that moment. But something unique, something that had never happened and will never happen again, happened in that moment. Eliza asks, is he afraid to die? I think so. Maybe afraid. I don't know about afraid, but he didn't want to die. He didn't want to experience that suffering. He didn't want to experience the pain. And the reason I say I don't know that he was afraid is because he had perfect trust in the Father, and he knew exactly what he was called to do, and he trusted in the Lord, and he trusted in the resurrection that would come, because Jesus knew that he was not going to be dead forever, that he would return. If you destroy this temple on the third day, I will raise it up, he says. So I don't know so much that he was afraid, but he wasn't looking forward to the amount of pain and to the horror that he was about to experience. Jesus dies on the cross. For the scriptural tradition, Jesus speaks to his mother and beloved disciples, John 19:25-27. And this one hits different. Notice where the nails are. They're not on his palms, they're on his wrist. Because on his palms, his hands wouldn't be able to support his weight, and he would fall off the cross and the nails would just rip through his palm. So they do it in the wrist between the bones so that you can be held up. And this is what I mean. When he needed to breathe, he would push himself up so he could breathe, but then his legs would get tired, so he would fall down again, and all of his weight would be on his chest and he wouldn't be able to breathe. And we see Mary there and one of the disciples. So yeah, that's Mary and the disciple John. And it doesn't say on the statue or on the inscription or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's where Jesus gives his mother Mary into the care of the disciples, into the care of John. But it doesn't say that on there, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here. So that was number 12. There's only 14 stations, so we have 2 left, and then I'll end the live stream. He looks so serious. He's embracing the Good Friday spirit. So this is going to be very sad. This is Jesus taken down from the cross. This is once he has died. And you can see more flowers there, Eliza. You can see the pain in his face. You can see the pain in Mary's face. That's his mom. His mom is holding her son. Her firstborn son. Very sad. And that's what we remember on Good Friday. That's what had to happen to make it good. And now we're going to our last station, Jesus in the tomb. Yeah, that's Jesus' mama. This is a shot of the church. It's a shrine to the Virgin Mary, actually. And the first thing you see when you walk in is this little statue of the Virgin Mary. And we're coming up to the tomb. This is where Jesus would have been inside. Of course, on that day, it would have been covered by a stone that would be rolled away on Easter, but then we wouldn't be able to see inside. So there's no stone covering it. I'll be quiet for this section because there's people praying and I don't want to disturb them, so I'll just let you see it. Okay guys, that is the 14 stations of the cross at the San Juan Basilica of the Virgin Mary. And thanks for watching, I appreciate it. Hopefully this is spiritually nourishing for you. Like I said, I'll record around the church and inside so that you can see the rest of the church, but I'll post that video later. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless you this Good Friday.